Okay, good evening, friends, and welcome to Bangalore. You can see what happened in Bangalore those days.
Okay, Molly, before you start, maybe everybody will give you a short introduction, which is Molly is a part of the Bangalore Hash group, amongst other activities that he does. And as part of Bangalore Hash, we have been running activities every day of the lockdown, so right since April. And uh, today was a good day. We thought to have Molly to be talking about Bangalore in the old days. So Molly is known to everyone. He's the known face in all familiar formal gatherings and informal gatherings. And one of his uh, little known qualifications is he's a heel on the dance floor. Okay, rock and roll is his passion. Okay, over to you, Molly, and let's start the
Thank you so
presentation.
much, Prakash, for those kind words. I think you said exactly what I wanted you to say when introducing me. Thank you so much. And okay, friends, it's Bangalore. Why do I choose this Bangalore business? Because now people said when they come to Bangalore, they should get Bangalore. The coining happened just about a couple of years ago, or maybe 10 years ago.
Okay, Molly, I'm just muting everybody. Everybody, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, please unmute yourself, Molly.
Okay.
Yep.
Done. So it also happened during the British days. Whenever people came to Bangalore, actually never left Bangalore for whatever reasons they thought. And there are three lovely reasons. Of course, the weather being one. The other two, I'll get onto that as I keep presenting. If you see the small picture out there, it is actually the Bego Temple, which is in Bangalore. It is a Shiva temple, which I visited and seen a Veera Kallu. That's what they call these inscriptions on stone over there. This Bendakaluru, I think reams of paper have gone under the water, and I think that may not hold good water these days. The frugal bean story of Bendakaluru, but the word Bangalore appears in very much in 986 AD on that stone over there, Bengaluru. And then when King Veerabhalla was in Bangalore, which is about 100 years later, then Kempegowda was almost 300 years later. So Bengaluru's name was there from uh, maybe 1,000 years ago. So it's not that frugal bean story, which is still accepted, but then, well, I don't think it really holds water these days. People can visit this lovely temple, Bego Temple. It's a lovely temple, Shiva temple. And if you go further down, very near the Meenakshi Mall, behind that, there's also a cave temple, which these two are the ones which are there since 986 AD. Okay, the next one.
Which says that Benda Kulur means boiled pulse.
Yeah, boiled beans, but that doesn't hold water these days. That's what I'm saying. Because you have this inscription. So why Bangalore? So let me start off with the Tipu's time instead of going further ahead. Of course, there are a lot of pictures which are there slightly earlier also. But the fact is that the British Raj actually came to Bangalore only because they wanted to get Tipu. The entire country was annexed, as you realize, with the British Raj, but Tipu was the one who was giving them jitters. So he was not allowing Mysore to go away from his stronghold. This is about 1790s, 1780s, Hyder and Tipu over there. So we start from that time. And I'm going to take you through some of the facets, especially in the cantonment area. Well, why did they come for Tipu and what happened? They couldn't go to Mysore. They couldn't go to Srirangapatnam. They had to come to Bangalore. And that's why the nearest point for them they could reach Tipu Sultan was Bangalore. And of course, the infrastructure was much better. And so they said, let's be here. They had a good army base in Bangalore after DCMB. DCMB was Delhi, Calcutta, Madras, Bangalore, the Bombay. Then they had the next base was quite good in Bangalore, apart from other places. And it was easy to move the troops from Chennai, that is Madras, to Bangalore. And of course, the Maharaja. No, 1 minute. I think too fast. I think we have to click. It's much better that way instead of going auto mode. Because each point by point, I'm just going through. Thank you. We can go to the good relation to the Maharaja of Mysore. The climate is good, yes. Sounds okay? Yeah. So how Mysore was won? From here, they took the help of the Maharajas. The British had a couple of, wars. So the terrain was not so great for them. And you can see that the guerrilla strife of warfare which Tipu was engaging was too difficult for the British to break through. And of course, the mosquitoes, I believe, was a terrible scenario. Those days, I don't know, kerosene was there or not. I believe they had some kind of a, what do you call, chemical or some kind of a kerosene, that to call it. And, oil they used to, the warriors in Mysore, Tipu Sultan's soldiers, so that the mosquitoes don't bite them. However, none was available for the Englishmen. So that's why they lost many of battles. Many of them died, in fact, of malaria. Lord Wellesley, not to have enough, but he had, his brother. He was not very, what do you call, brave enough to come over. So he sent his brother, actually, Arthur Wellesley, with about 4,000 British soldiers as against 40,000 Indian soldiers, 40,000 plus. And then 50,000 was against, and unfortunately Tipu lost the war. And it was in 1799. That's when Tipu laid down his life. The Anglo-Mysore War, 1793, and then 1799, finally Tipu was killed in the Battle of Srirangapatnam. They say because they couldn't pronounce Srirangapatnam, it's called Srirangapattam. It was the largest victory for the British, and the last enemy was eliminated. Then suddenly Arthur Wellesley became, the great guy, became the Britain hero. Then he went on to become the Duke of Wellington later. Yeah, we can continue. Okay, so we come back to the era which is just after that, the development of some of the areas, the cantonment areas. As I told you, I'm just touching a little bit on cantonment, and messages can come in and say. So from 1800 to 1900, East India Company became stronger. It was not a company any longer. So the Bangalore cantonment was called the Bangalore Civil Lines because it had the most talked about. We had the greatest life in Bangalore, life for a luxury. That's why I said Bangalored, because people who came here never left. The women who came to Bangalore looked at the soldiers here. They got married. They settled down here. That's how the population of the Anglo-Indian community and the British Indian community started in Bangalore. That's how the cantonment started developing. So the climate, the first thing I told you, the three things to keep reminding me. The first one, of course, is climate. The climate is so good that it might settle in Bangalore. Okay, next, going forward. So many Brits came down here. The young girls came to marry the British soldiers, and the Anglo-Indian population increased. Right. Bangalore cantonment became very popular. So we can hold this for some more time. I'll just explain a couple of things here. Trinity Church, St. Mark's Church, St. Patrick's Church. Now, if you see, it's a very, we are talking about racism. We're talking about people who are marginalized or whatever, but I'm not commenting on anything. I'm no authority to complain. But if you see, the Trinity Church was a church where Winston Churchill went to pray. The St. Mark's Cathedral is there for the other people. St. Patrick's was basically for the Irish. So the Irishmen, as you know, were not so great as far as the Britishers were concerned, and so was the Scots. So what happened was they had separate churches, so they were not allowed into these churches, to worship. So St. Andrews was built, which St. Andrews came up for the Welsh, and many other churches, schools, and colleges like Bishop Cotton's and St. Joseph's. Now, if you look at the entire scenario, what happened to the British, my friends, is that they always had an educational institution and a church, which is normally together, because they wanted to propagate education. And also another very interesting thing, when you look at St. Patrick's, for example, or St. Luke's, the Sacred Hearts, they always had an area which was dedicated for destitutes and children's education for the underprivileged children. So that's what is always, great that I think about the education that was propagated by the Brits. is that they always had one institution where the destitute women will be there, that's looked after by the church, and then the educational institution that was there where the children would go and study, and then a place for the children who were underprivileged also used to join the same school. Obviously, they were not giving the fees or anything. The free education was there. The boarding and lodging was obviously free. So they encouraged, wholesome kind of a development of all these places. That's why St. Patrick's has a dormitory which is there. So does St. Lude's, so does St. Patrick's, and many other churches. Now you see Coxtown, Cooktown, Langford Town, Richmond Town. These are some of the towns that were started, right? Residency Road, Parade Road, Brigade Road, Livell Road, Blackpully. I'm sure many of you know what's Blackpully because it's not interactive, so I can't get the question. Blackpully actually was Shivaji Nagar. They said it's for the Whitefield was the white people, Blackpully was the black people, but I don't think it's true. Kariya Hakki, there's a black rice grain they were saying that Hakki is also means a bird. So it might be emanating from that. And the Whitefield, of course, the Anglo-Indians settled there. It's a lovely place. As it is, it was like a retired men used to live here. It's a paradise. Whitefield was definitely a paradise. So many of them moved to Whitefield to live like a countryside to us, apart from the city of Bangalore. Okay, going forward. Yeah, I think you can go forward. I think there's a picture there. So that's how the good old lovely parades. I think this is one of the first pictures that was taken from the public utility building that was built. If you see the monstrous, the tracks of the metro are not seen here. The lovely parade ground is on the right. It was called the parade ground. It's called the parade road because that was called the parade ground. If you see the Cubbon Road, that was also part of the British unit, but they gave it away. And the barracks on the other side of Cubbon Road, where St. Andrew's Church is there right now, and still you find a lot of army, which is occupied, a lot of place over there. In fact, the church and the army occupy the maximum real estate in Bangalore, my friends. So that's why the parade ground, you can see that itself is a huge area that's occupied by the army. And this lovely road, which is called Parade Road. It's called the Parade Grounds. That's why Koshi's was called the Parade Cafe. Then it changed to Koshi's later. And then you see, if you look at, cavalry, brigade, infantry, these are names that were used by the army people, and each road was given that auxiliary road. Okay, so Mahatma Gandhi Road came up much later. The continuation of Mahatma Gandhi Road, which is called the Kasturba Road, used to be called the Sydney Road. I don't know for what reason it was called Sydney Road, but that was Sydney Road. This was Parade Road. And there's Parade Ground. And the East Parade was the East, the West Parade, and the South Parade. This is actually the South Parade. In fact, MG Road was called South Parade. For a very long time, it's called South Parade. And then it changed over to Mahatma Gandhi Road. Okay, going forward. St. Patrick's Church, this is a nice painting, which I explained to you earlier. If you see on your screen right and screen left, the church was there. The St. Patrick's housed a school, and there's also a destitute women's place, and also a place for the children who are basically, maybe orphans or also children who are underprivileged. They also bring them here, and they used to educate them. So that's why I took St. Patrick's, because it's right here opposite the place, and then we know exactly whatever happened there. And we know a lot of people from the church who give us a lot of inputs as to how the church used to be run those days. Going forward. And that's from the encyclopedia. You can see Winston Churchill. Okay, we can hold this for some time. Winston Churchill was a lieutenant cadet when he came to Bangalore. He studied in Bishop Cotton's, and every cadet who was in Bishop Cotton's had to mount on a horse, take a picture. So this picture is from the encyclopedia. It's there. You can go check with the encyclopedia, and it's a lovely picture of his. At that point of time, obviously, nobody knew that he's going to take over as the Prime Minister of England. There's also another house which I believe is very next to it's probably the Bible Society, which is housed right now, was called the Waverley House, where Sir Winston Churchill might have resided. There's also another Berkshire house, which is very near the Sapna bookstore next to Galaxy Theatre. That's also another place I believe that Winston Churchill resided, apart from Waverley House. the only idea why Beverly House was chosen, because for him it was very near to go to Trinity Church, which is very nearby. And then when he comes out on that MG road, then the whole of parade ground is visible for him. When he mounts on a horse, he can see the entire parade ground right from that place. So that's why I believe they chose that place where he could have a good view of the parade, the grounds, and he can move it. And he went on the right. You can see, the Trinity Church going forward, and that's the inside of the Trinity Church. My strong recommendation is that everyone should visit the church, whether you're praying or whether you're not. The fact is that, my friends, this is one of the original buildings that is there, which is very existent, on MG Road. Of course, they probably have other buildings also, but the fact is that this has the biggest bell. If you climb up there, and you can see the original chairs, the pews are all original over there, and then you can see the construction. Actually, in Bangalore, you had three kinds of construction. You had the Victorian style, you had the Tudor style, and you had the Gothic style. So most of the churches were Gothic, and if you see of course, my printing press is also 150 years old. I'm coming to that also, which is a very Victorian style, and the Tudor style is the Bangalore Palace, which is very Tudor style, right? So if you go in here, entire thing, you can see even the epitaph over there written how people died. Somebody died drowning, somebody fell off a horse, somebody was bitten by mosquitoes, and somebody died of a heart attack or probably whatever. They fell off the horse, they broke their bones, and everything is all engraved, and you can see it all over the place. And it's a lovely church, very peaceful, and then there's kind of an aura out there when you go. And that's the reason that I recommend that you go there and just go and see the bell up there. One of the oldest bell is still functioning. A lovely church. Going forward, everything, St. Mark's Cathedral, Andrews Church, all are brilliant. One visit is definitely there. Okay, now I'm just talking about something about looking back about some interesting developments in Bangalore. That's where it makes interesting, and that's the trivia that comes up. Okay, going forward, the old city was under the Maharaja, and the cantonment was under the British. So if you're coming into the cantonment area, you'll have to actually pay a toll. So my dear friends, that toll gate, if you see, is actually from the olden days, nothing new today. So you have the Alsur toll gate, which is the Alsur gate police station that is there. And one near Bangalore Dairy, it was another toll gate. There's another toll gate there. So there are a couple of toll gates that were there when people are coming into the city, rather Bangalore city, because that was the old city and this was the new city. When you're coming into that place, Maharaja, because the relations, I said, the Maharaja had a very good relation with the British. So the British said, okay, the old Bangalore, I think you can still take care of that. It will be under a Maharaja. So the KR market and all those areas, Chamarajpet, all those areas were under the Maharaja, and the cantonment area was looked after by the British residency. So, okay, you can hold this for some more time. Just hold that for some time. Yeah. Okay, that's a very interesting piece out here. There is a Kiran, I think, who's joined in here, and some other people who are from the other, the Bangalore heritage, walkers and all that. They will probably enlighten you all this. This is a wonderful story, my dear friends. The story of electricity in Bangalore. When do you think the electric bulb probably was invented by Thomas Alva Edison? Right? Okay, I think no, the interaction stuff was there, so happening. I think it's 1784, 89. We have stalwarts. They'll definitely say it's around the end of 1780s. Within 15 years, we had the electric bulb in Bangalore. It was the KR market, but they say Calcutta also had one of these lamps much earlier to Bangalore. And I was reading a book on Bangalore Club recently, which also said the Bangalore Club had a small generator, kind of a machine equipment that used to make electricity. I mean, rather, generate electricity. Where they had the ballroom in Bangalore Club, they had the lights, the waltz dancing used to happen, the ballroom dancing used to happen. So the Britishers used to be there. I think that was there. Well, publicly, I'm talking about the first lamp that was there in 1905 at KR Market. The Maharaja wanted the first right. Of course, Vishwesvaraya helped the British to take this lovely position of getting the electricity to Bangalore. And Vishwesvaraya wanted to tap the power. Instead, discovered Shivanasamudram. Now, I'll come to level just after that. Now, friends, I have a great admiration for Sir M. Vishwesvaraya. I think he's one of the greatest architects of the Mysore state. I still have a lot of respect and regard for him. I always pray for him. This is a soul, wonderful soul. And one of the incidents that I was given to understand is that when Vishwesvaraya took all the Britishers, when they were looking for generating electricity, obviously they have to find a waterfall. They have turbines. They have to generate it, and the electricity had to come to Bangalore. So Mr. Level played a very important role in that. And he was the one who coerced the Maharaja, I believe, and made sure the Vishwesvaraya was involved, and they went and finally discovered Shivanasamudram. And when everybody was, ecstatic, look at, Shivanasamudram is fantastic. What a beautiful waterfall. Absolutely wonderful. So great. So beautiful. And everybody was ecstatic, except Sir M. Vishwesvaraya. He just stood there looking at this wonderful waterfall. Just stood there for a couple of minutes. And then somebody came and asked him, "Sir, anything wrong? Are you not happy seeing this wonderful waterfall?" Vishwesvaraya did not have any other words to say except this, my friends. He just said, "What a waste of energy. Look at this man's vision." He knew that he could generate electricity. My dear friends, the first, when they talk of so many first in Bangalore, I think the first time, I think Bangalore went global because we went for a global tender. Obviously, the tender came in from Britain in 1904 after the Shivanasamudram generators were installed, and the generators are in fact still running right now. The turbines, rather, they're still running now. So the turbines started off in 1905 and they're still running very much in giving us all the electricity that we need today. And it started off those days. And why is level so important in this? Well, all level road out here, we say cunning intelligence. Actually, he was a geologist. He was actually looking for gold. So he knew somewhere around Bangalore there was gold. So he knew there was gold in Kolar. He discovered it. And then how do you dig gold without electricity, without some kind of a match? So he made sure that he, I believe all this story is a story, obviously a story. Hopefully it's holds some water at least to some extent. So he came out there and made sure he started digging for gold. He found the gold, and then he came to Bangalore and made sure that electrical lines were first given to Bangalore at the KR market. From there, it directly came to the B station, which is the East Parade, which is very near on MG Road, in fact. And then the old Madras Road, he took a left from there through the Gurudwara, Alsur Lake. He straight took it to Kolar because he wanted to mine gold over there. And I believe there's a nice story, there's a trivia over there. Those days you can't buy land even now, but then if you're going to buy a whole, village, probably a whole town, so you'll have to get the signature from the Queen of England. So he, just like the advertisements that you have today, a 4-point letter somewhere in the corner that you can't even read it, conditions apply. So what happened was, I believe Level drafted a letter saying that he wanted to buy this property, gave his credentials, sent it to the Queen of England. So the Queen of England signed. But what was the condition, which was 4-point, which nobody could probably read it. It's probably a doctor's handwriting. He couldn't decipher what it was. The handwriting was there. It merely said, "I get to keep the land and whatever I find there." Because if you even see today, gold or even sandalwood, if it is in your property, it belongs to the government. So it was those days also. If you find gold or whatever metal you may find, it's actually the government gets to keep it. But Level was got the permission from the Queen to keep whatever is there. So I believe this is a nice story, and that's why he was inclined to take the electricity lines. And that too, what happened? He did not give the entire 220 volts, I believe, whatever the technical terms. He gave only 110 volts or something. Joules, they call it, much lower, because you can't even tap the electricity and you can't steal electricity. Cunning intelligence, of course, and that was Level. Though he took it there and made sure that he had the digging organized and the Kolar mines was there. That's how Kolar connection. That's how the Kolar goldfields, I believe, came up. Right? Okay. Going forward. So interesting. Now Level Road. The moment you say, sometimes in our parlance we say, "Oh, Salpa Level." That means Salpa Kirik party. We just call him Level. Nobody understands. Now you call somebody Level, they know, oh, this is some Kirik party fellow. Okay. Why Tamilians and why Muslims resided mostly in the cantonment area, the Alsur and the Blackpalli? friends, the Tambis, which the MEG used to be called, the Maharajas of Mysore, they were doing the old city. The cantonment, of course, was under the British, as I was always mentioning, and so was Madras presidency. So the British probably did not believe a lot of local people because they had the connection with the Maharaja. So most of the people who resided here were the British. So they decided to bring the Tamilians, right, from Madras. Now, there are two reasons for Tamilians and Muslims. So the second reason I'm coming to right now is here. Now, Tamilians were the one who ran their errands, and also the mamas who wants a nice massage. So obviously, the Tamil mami will probably give a nice massage over there, and the mamas will actually look after the shop. And they were Kanakapulle. Kanakapulle is the guys who write accounts. So for these reasons, the Tamilians were brought into the city, and the Muslims. That's what I said. What are the two most important things the British loved? I said one is the climate. They came for the climate, of course. Next is what? The steak. They wanted their beef steak. So who would give it? So obviously you had these lovely Muslim gentlemen who came, and the second thing, of course, they had horses. Who was looking after the horses? The best of the Arabian horses. Who would make the saddles for them? Who would give them the lovely steak for them? It was the Muslims. So that's why they decided to bring these two people and house a lot of Tamilians in Alsur. Why? Because it's the periphery of MG Road. If you see from Little Theatre, wherever that Taj Residency is there right now, the Alsur, at the beck and call, they have to be present in the cantonment area. So that's why Alsur was very near to them, and so was Shivaji Nagar. Shivaji Nagar was very near BRV and the Central Street where the barracks was there. If they wanted food, they wanted their horses to be looked after, immediately they have to be at the beck and call of them. So that's where they resided very closely in the periphery of our cantonment area. And that's why you find this population still existing and flourishing in these areas. And these trades are the ones that are still flourishing. And also Tamilians, a lot of them were having these small kirana kind of shops. They were shopkeepers. And so does the Muslims. They were also having the small shops. So you see, that's why these two people community is all, the trader community was developed. So the local governor, stayed on a particular road on Residency Road, South Parade. Okay, hold it there for some time. Now, when I first joined the St. Joseph's, when I was in St. Joseph Indian High School, I asked them, why is it called Residency Road? Why is it called Grant Road? I have no idea. People said, hey, pada paitekara. You don't even know why it is called Brigade Road and Hayes Road and this thing. Why you're asking? We don't know why it is. So I was quite curious. And then I got the answer finally at some point of time, that the resident of Bangalore lived, right now the building is very much there, the bungalow is there, behind St. Joseph's College, which the entry was there from the Residency Road, which is the old, building which is behind State Bank of India. So that was the Bangalore residence. And that's why this road is called Residency Road. Haven't changed, and then now they changed it to Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa Road. We always still believe that I have to call it as Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa Road. We just call it Field Marshal Cariappa Road in official addresses, but still it's popularly known as Residency Road. Okay, that's the and then the South Parade ground and the East Parade and the South Parade, because the parade ground was there. So east of the parade was the East Parade Church, and that's why it's called the East Parade, and the west of the West Parade. Now, there's some interesting thing about the East Parade Church. If you see all the churches that I've mentioned, St. Andrew's, St. Patrick's, St. Mark's Cathedral, Trinity Church, and St. Lude's out there, and you also have St. Francis Xavier's, and then you have various other churches. My friends, if you see, all these churches have a spire. East Parade Church does not have a spire. I believe, which I don't think is true still, though the racism they're talking about those days, that the colored people had to pray only at the East Parade Church, which does not have a spire. Whereas the others, the Irish had a church for themselves, the Scots had a church for themselves, the Britishers had a church for themselves. St. Mark's Cathedral was there as a cathedral. It was not a church. And then now it's St. Mark's Cathedral Church. And then prayers happened all these places. The services was there in all the places. And also in East Parade Church. This is what they say, but I don't know how much true. But then it's a story. Well, I just go along with the story. And then we have the Aga Abbas Ali Road. Well, that's a very interesting aspect. As I told, that the horses were very, very important, because they all rode horses those days. What is the mode of transport? and they used to have the best, what do you call the horses. So it was Aga Abbas Ali, one of the greatest horse breeders in Arabia those days, my friends. The Britishers fetched him here with 50 lovely Arabian horses. My dear friends, Bangalore had a racecourse those times, and Bangalore, for the first time ever in the country, had one of the best Arabian horses. That's why Aga Abbas Ali was there, right? That's Aga Abbas Ali Road. That's why Aga Abbas Ali is so famous. He's actually a horse breeder who came there. Then Cavalry Road, Brigade Road, Infantry Road, as I mentioned earlier, all connections with the armed forces, the army. They have the cavalry in the army. They have a brigade in the army. They have an infantry. They have a platoon. So that's how all these names of the roads that have come up based on those names of the units in the army. Okay, going ahead. Moving forward, okay. Okay, let me have a little louder. I think the audio they say is not here. Okay. Brewing beer. Okay, let it be there. Let it be there. Let's stick with the brewing the beer now, and we come to Bizaria and WQ later. Friends, brewing and the beer and the bar. Well, if you see why beer was there in Bangalore, why they started bar in Bangalore. This is the third thing, my dear friends. The first, of course, I told you is the climate. The Bangalore was attractive. The second was the steak. The Muslims gave them fantastic steak. The Bangalore had lovely steaks those days. The Britishers couldn't live without beer. That was their third love. So what they did was is to get the peat transported in a ship. Is to come to Bangalore from Mumbai. It takes 6 months to come here. Then they used to brew the beer here, and then that's why United Breweries, for example, was very near Brigade Road, because the bars were there in Brigade Road. The pub dispensers were in Brigade Road, so it was easy for them to transport the beer from Grant Road to Brigade Road, very near. Just have to cross Church Street. It is called Church Street because from Brigade Road, if you take a right turn onto Church Street, those days the Koshi's building, Koshi's restaurant was not there. It would lead directly to St. Mark's Church, my friends. That's why that road is called Church Street. And these people used to bring the beer from the United Breweries. In fact, United Breweries was not located at the first place opposite St. Joseph's, where the UB City stands here, my friends. Now, United Breweries, the name was given because in Langford town, next to the Richmond Circle, they had 5 breweries. Shantinagar, very near, the Braille Street. Then you had, Langford Town, Richmond Town, all these places. There were 5 breweries around that area, the Shantinagar area. So these 5 breweries, they wanted to make it together once, and they wanted to have a single large brewery which was transferred, which is to Grant Road. And then that is why, my dear friends, all the 5 breweries got together. It was called the United Brewery. And that's why the name United Brewery came into existence. And that started as a large brewery in the UB building. And that's why United Brewery came there. And that's why people wanted beer in Bangalore. So I don't know whether Brigade Road was number 1 in India for whether it was the number 1 in India as far as the one way was concerned, only because I think people are getting drunk and they were driving, and the Britishers found that it's going to be causing accidents. So they said, okay, let's have it only one way. Let's go one way. We're going to drink in the night and move on. So let's not have traffic. I think I'm just joking. Maybe that's why Brigade Road was the first, I believe, the first one way in India. I don't know for what reason, but then maybe it's not right. But then they say the Brigade Road is the first one way in the country. Okay, pizzeria. Okay, at WQ building. Okay, go to the next one. I can just show that picture there, and then we can go moving forward. Okay, friends, that is the, if you see there, WQ Judge Press. I'm not trying to propagate any business or anything, but then this is also part of history. The building that WQ Judge Press just now occupies is an 1895 building, original Victorian building. There are some lovely stained glass which is still, in the press. It is 126 years old building, my friends. We are still running the press. We've been in this press, in this building since 1969. So it's our 52nd year that we've been in building. If you see the small picture there, the WQ Judge Press was started in Basavangudi by the 2 great people. On the right, if you see, the top is Mr. BP Wadia. People who know BP Wadia Road in Basavangudi, that's BP Wadia for you. And the one that is just below, okay, is Mr. Tenbrook. My dear friends, Tenbrook is the father of Sophie Tenbrook, who ran the East-West School for over 37 years. East-West School was actually in the building of WQ Judge Press, and then it moved near the Armugam Circle. So we had WQ Judge Press and East-West School connected with BP Wadia and Tenbrook. In fact, Tenbrook was the first manager, and the chair that he used to sit is still the chair that I sit in. And BP Wadia and Tenbrook decided in 1952 to start a press only to propagate Theosophy. And that's why it was named WQ Judge Press, William Kwan Judge Press. And William Kwan Judge has nothing to do with India. William Kwan Judge was born in the United States in 1852. So in 1952, 100 years of memory of WQ Judge, who was also a phenomenal theosophist. They decided to name the Judge Press as WQ Judge Press only to propagate theosophical books. So Theosophical Magazine, the Theosophical Movement, the Aryan Path are some of the books that used to be published in the press those days. Whereas 1963, BP Wadia decided to go back to Mumbai with Madam Kama and Blavatsky. So he wanted to propagate theosophy in a greater movement. He doesn't want to be in business, and they couldn't find it commercially viable to run the printing press. International Book House, which is IBH, took over this printing press and bought this present printing press from 1963 to 1967. They struggled to find a place. They finally found the place here where my uncle, who's no more, Mr. Rangarajan, used to be the manager at Judge Press. So he knew Mr. Loganathan, who used to be the owner of this property, and he brought the press out here. My dear friends, there is a very good, saying that that goes along with the press out here, is that if you see the car that is standing there, which is the old, this is the press which is there on the right and the left, you can see the press. The old one is on the top. The press building is still the same foyer. The 27 to 24 feet high ceilings that we have out here, completely Bangalore tiles. It's very cool. And just one more point on this is that WQ Judge Press building that is here, my friends, which is right here, right now, had the original pizzeria. Yes, we didn't even know the spelling of pizza. My dear friends, 1940, Mrs. Da Costa was running a pizzeria in the very building that we have the press today. 97 Residency Road used to house a pizzeria. Mrs. Da Costa was married to an Italian Air Force officer. Finally, the Air Force officer, they had a son, and when the World War broke out, I think, he wanted to go back to Italy, and the son also went back, but Mrs. Da Costa refused to leave. It became a lovely, an Italian guest house. It's a lovely corridor with a lovely building. I mean, the rooms on either side. It was called the Italian guest house. She ran this place till 1963. And then she had to move out. Obviously, she had to be chased out when we took over this place. And finally, in 1967, the press moved from Basavangudi to the present location. Yeah, going forward. Yeah, I'll just explain that. Okay. Some more interesting facts. Yes, this is very interesting. The old Bangalore, Malleshwaram, Chickpet, Badepet, Cottonpet remain the same, which was under the Maharaja. Old Bangalore. Why? Malleshwaram, of course, was the Kadu Malleshwara temple. That's what it got named. And then every time, my dear friends, you wanted to buy something, you had to go to the Pete. And that's why the Chickpete came there. It's a small Pete. Badepete, they used to have a lot of yarns being done. So that's called Badepet. Cottonpet, of course, cotton godowns and the cotton people used to sell and buy cotton there. It's called Cottonpet. So you have Mamulpet, Cottonpet, Chickpet, Badepet, Taragupet, Akipete. Akipete means only rice used to be sold. So it's called Akipete. So that's how all these names came up, and it's still much relevant today. The well-known buildings that has come in history is, of course, St. Joseph's College and Sacred Heart School, Raj Bhavan, and the Mayor Hall. Okay, some small trivia out here. St. Joseph's College, my dear friends, as you come down from Brigade Road, or if you go down from Residency Road now, you'll find St. Joseph's College is on your left and Sacred Heart Girls' School is on your right. So what I was given to understand is that, can you imagine what would have been in St. Joseph's College and in Sacred Heart Girls' School those days? My dear friends, the Sacred Hearts Girls' School was a dungeon. It was a jail. St. Joseph's College was where people were put to sleep. They had a guillotine. Essentially, the prisoners were kept in Sacred Heart School building, and then they were just cross over, take them to the St. Joseph's building, and execute them. I believe so, but I don't know how much is true. But then the fact that when they were leaving this place, many people told them that the spirits are not very good there. I don't think it's a nice place where your people were tortured and killed, and then you should have another church or something. You have enough of churches in Bangalore. If there is an educational institution, it would help the people, and that would probably subdue all the hardships that the people had faced. I think probably you people will be blessed because you start an educational institution. So that's the story, and that's how it goes. And these two institutions became the Sacred Hearts, and the Sacred Hearts was taken over by nuns, and the St. Joseph's by the Jesuit fathers. That's how I believe it came up. Of course, Raj Bhavan that is there. High grounds. Why was Raj Bhavan there? Raj Bhavan is the biggest building, and they had the 50 Arabian horses stables, and Raj Bhavan housed all of them. We have a lovely book that printed on Raj Bhavan. Raj Bhavan itself is a huge presentation for the next 2-3 hours. And then Mayor Hall. Very important thing about the Mayor Hall is that, my dear friends, with all the buildings that we spoke about in Bangalore, Mayor Hall was the first building was built with public money, not with government money. I think 4 annas, that is 25 paisa, was contributed by so many people, and that's how Mayor Hall was built. Why Mayor Hall was built with the public money? Because it is a public place, and people can go there. As a court was there, so people had to come there. They can argue. There was a court, and then they had various other public hearings over there. Those days, whatever happened, anything to do with the public, like the police was there. Even now, you have the public utility building houses the assistant commissioner's office. So the police were there. Then you had the licenses that he was granted. Was something there. Your dad had an office in the Mayor Hall. Very good. I'm just looking at the comments now and then. So that's how the Mayor Hall story is there. So that's the first. That's why it was called the building that came up next to the Mayor Hall was called the Public Utility Building, because this is also built with public money for the sake of public. And this property that is built, which is just now you see the public utility building, is part of the Mayor Hall. It is a part of the Mayor Hall complex, or the compound, or the property. And now that building came up. That's how it's called the Mayor Hall, and that's why it's called the Public Utility Building. Okay, going forward. Yeah. So that's the fact about a little bit of the glass house. You all know how the glass house was there. It only had 3 areas, and then one area came up much later. There's a lovely book. I think if you can buy a book of Lal Bagh, the first book which is printed in the country, on the gardens, the Great Garden, we can hold it there. We can hold it there, and then I can can go there. It was a mango garden in 1761. The glass house foundation was laid by the Prince of Wales, and then 74 to 1980, I think it was James Cameron who made sure that it was completed. It's a very interesting vegetable that came up. I'm just going through things which are interesting. The fact that you missed Mahila Seva Samaj started in 1923. Thank you, Gopal. As I told you, as I was covering a little bit of cantonment area, thank you so much. And then National College, if I talk about Basavangudi, and if I talk about National College, if I talk about the Gavi Gangadeshwara Temple, if I talk about Akki Kalleka Parishad, if I talk about the big banyan tree, there are lots to go. As I told you right in the beginning, I'm just covering just this cantonment area for the time being, and I'm not. And Muna sir is so great. I mean, Suresh Muna is the greatest guru, the one who gave me a lot of inputs. And of course, I must confess the fact that Arun Pai and Bangalore Environment Trust have given a lot of inputs for whatever I'm presenting today. And the pictures, of course, is the Bangalore bygone era. Kiran, I think, is joined up there, and he's contributed quite a lot. Naresh Narasimhan, Naresh has been after me. He took away all the pictures that I had out in the office. I had quite a lot of pictures, and I collected this over the period of time because my father and my grandfather and all of them collected. And one interesting fact about before going to Lal Bagh, I'm not proud. I mean, I have to be proud of my family anyway, because that is also part of a little bit of old Bangalore. My father actually started Indian Express in Bangalore, my friends. He was one of the architects of starting the Indian Express. He was a right-hand man to Ramnath Goenka. He was the first press superintendent. And my grandfather was the first King's Commission South Indian officer of the Royal British Navy to receive his King's Commission directly from Lord Wavell, who was the supreme commander of the Royal British Naval Forces. So my grandfather was one of the first South Indian, in fact, South Indian, I don't want to be, a casteism out here, but the South Indian Brahmin officer. They never used to give anything to the South Indian officers because everything was the British. And my grandfather was also the first British naval officer to be inducted into the lodge in St. Mount Thomas in Chennai. So that's a little bit, and we have contributed some to Bangalore. My father was also instrumental in getting that lovely express guest house, which is on, very near, what is that, Passport Office Road. In that road, that's there. That's about it. So you see the pear squash. Pear squash, it's called Sime Badne Kai. Chow chow, they call it here. In fact, James Cameroon, my dear friends, he took over, and Krumigal played a very important role. They grew this because it came from Sime Badne Kai. They bought this Badne Kai, which is brinjal. They brought it from Sime. Sime was London, so they called it Sime Badne Kai because it looks like a white brinjal. My dear friends, I believe it is extremely healthy. So what James Cameron did, it's not the same David Cameron who had the Titanic movie directed. Even today, my dear friends, next time when you go up the Lalbagh Gate, which is the gate from the Kengal Hanumantaya Road, from Double Road, when you go up the building, just before you reach the wonderful, that 10 million year old rock formation out there, the gate, if you see, it still says Cameroon Gate. That's Cameroon. James Cameroon was the one who took over the charge of Lalbagh and did quite a lot of work over there. And one thing I had to say only about this pear squash. That's there's also one more name which I forget right now for that lovely vegetable, chow chow. He gave it to the people all around that area in around Lalbagh, and asked them to grow it there, and they gave it free. He says, take it. It's a lovely vegetable. It's a very easy to cook. It's very easy to peel and cook. You don't have to worry about it, and it doesn't get rot very easily. And at the same point of time, I think it's not mentioned in this place, but then since we are in Lalbagh, let me dwell upon this. My dear friends, very interesting aspect. Many of us did not know why it is called Khader Sharif Garden, why it is called Obalappa Garden, why is it called Wilson Garden. My dear friends, look at the vision of these people. In fact, in 1947, I believe Krumbigal, the first thing that he did when the independence was got, he got a letter, make sure that the entire compound was laid for the Bangalore Lalbagh, because he knew that once the independence was given, nothing would be under the British, and probably the land sharks those days would have just swallowed the entire property of Lalbagh. So he got the permission and made sure that the entire building, the entire Lalbagh belonged to the government and the public. So he made sure he got it there. And he got a permission. And I think Kurmigal did a lot of work in making sure that the Lalbagh remained what it is today. This garden, for example, is also the same, my dear friends. The vision of these people who looked after Lalbagh, the Britishers those days, they had lovely sketching because there were no photographs those days. So you can see huge sketchings, which Aditi School has digitized right now, which is in the horticulture department. Friends, they knew if you have to develop a garden inside Lalbagh, how will you do it without external help? How will the people outside the community prosper? How will they grow vegetables and plants and fruits and flowers? So they had to give it to Lalbagh. So they said, okay, Lalbagh will be developed, but we have to pay people. So how will you pay them? You can't pay them free. So they said, okay, develop garden. That's why even now today, if you see behind Ashoka Pillar, you have that wonderful place, Sajapura, where you have the plants still being sold and developed. The horticulture is a thriving business out there. My dear friends, horticulture was developed only because of the vision of these Britishers. So Wilson Garden had something to do, probably fruits. And probably, you have Obalappa Garden. Obalappa Garden probably had something to do with the plants and the crotons and the decorative plants. And probably Khader Sharif Garden. Maybe they grew up a lot of vegetables there. So each one had, they call the SME, subject matter expert. So they knew each of the garden was an expert. So that is why the names, which are still prevalent today. Obalappa Garden, which is very near where MTR is there, opposite that one. Khader Sharif Garden. If you go from Double Road and you come down, you take a left, Rivoli Hotel opposite the Bangalore bus station. On the left, if you go, is the Khadar Sharif Garden out there, which is near Vijaya Bank. And then, of course, where Wilson Garden is there, where the BTS is there, that is Wilson Garden. So these are the gardens developed there. And they also had a lovely, all these ideas and everything that came into that place. A lot of the ideas were brought in by Kew Gardens, my friends, only because Krumbigal happened to be at the Kew Gardens being trained there. So he came here, the German landscape and architect, and they suspected that he was a spy. Poor fellow was arrested and he was almost condemned to death. But luckily, he managed to, be good. And so was his wife. And they came to Bangalore. And that's without them, I don't think Lalbagh would be in this place what it is today. Okay, going forward. Yeah, that's Mark Cubbon. That's a lovely Cubbon Road, which I said Sheshadri Iyer. And Sheshadri Iyer, of course, the Diwan of Mysore, Visheshri also Diwan of Mysore. And these people developed, you can see today, the more bars and more hospitals being opened and instead of libraries. But look at that Sheshadri Iyer library. My dear friends, each one who have not visited, please visit the library. It's a fantastic building. The first place. Admire the architecture. There's so much to learn. And of course, the books give you enormous, obviously, what else I can say? In the library, books give you enormous knowledge, obviously, knowledge. So Richard Sankey, the Cubbon Park was actually planned in 1964 by Richard Sankey. Now, this is the same Sankey where the Sankey tank is there. It's on his name, they said. Sankey tank is named after Sir Richard Sankey. Just planned. But then he said, I think Mark Cubbon played a very important role. It was called Meade's Park, after John Meade, who was then the commissioner of Mysore. And then what happened was subsequently it was understood as Chamaraj Park in 1927. And then later came up to be known as Cubbon Park in memory of late Cubbon. I believe Cubbon did an enormous job, a lot of work that he contributed to the development of Bangalore. So to respect him, they made sure that he's named after Cubbon Park. Chamaraj Vodiyar said, okay, I have too many parks, too many names in my place, in my name. I think it's okay. And that's also another thing that I want to say when Chamaraj, one more interesting fact that I remember right now is that Saram Vishweshwarya, again, my reverence, the great man. I believe Miller's, commission was there, something 1912 or 1913. They're discussing about the, reservations. At those point of time, reservations for the Dalits or the blacks or the whites or whatever it was called, where Vishweshwarya was not too happy. I believe at that point of time, he took a sabbatical or went away 1 year to London or England, and then he wanted to study something, and then he came back. And there were arrears in his name. He used to draw a salary, of course, and the arrears was quite a lot. So what happened was he didn't take the arrears. So Vishweshwarya said, instead of me taking the arrears, I think you must get an educational institution in that place. And that's how, my friends, the arrears not collected by Sir M. Vishweshwaraya, the entire 1 lakh rupees that was due to him, it went on to make the institution called the SJP Polytechnic. And he was so clear that it should not be named after him, though it was called Vishweshwaraya College of Engineering. There's something else, somewhere else, but he said, let Sri Jaisam Raja Vodiyar's name be prominent, because he's the one who made sure it was constructed and the money was given by Vishweshwaraya, arrear money. Can you even believe the politicians today are like this? Okay. Going forward. Okay, now we have a lot of pictures. That's St. Joseph's, as I told you. And if you go past this, at the back is that wonderful building which houses the residency, the old residence of Bangalore those days. Okay, that's St. Joseph's. Okay, going forward. Yeah, you know what this is. This is the wonderful race course. There's a lot of pictures now. I have not much to say. There's too much of talking. You'll get bored. Okay, pictures, more pictures now. That's the race course. That you know what this is now. That's a Bowring Hospital. Lord Bowring. It was called Queen Victoria. When Victoria came here, they said, we have so many hospitals, but for the destitutes, for the children, for the underprivileged people, I think there's no hospital. So that's why Victoria Hospital came as a government hospital. Okay, going forward. You can see that's the Puttanachetty Hall. That's a town hall. Just just pictures going ahead. Look at that. On the right is an MG Road, and then this is MG Road, must be in the 80s, and the one on the right of your screen must be MG Roads in the 40s or 50s. Okay, going forward. I know I have my great friend who's a member of the Gymkhana here. We go and have a lot. I don't know why it is called. If you see the postcard right at the bottom, it's called Jain Khana. I wonder even if Jain had some khana in places like Gymkhana where you used to have served non-veg and liquor. But anyway, that's the Gymkhana, which is in Frasertown, Coxtown, the Aloysius College, just the junction, Aloysius Playground. That's the Bangalore Gymkhana. And you know what this is? This is a lovely army school, which is very much there even now. A lot of people who have passed out of the army school and then gone to Dehradun and then to OTS in Mysore, in Chennai. This is the CMP campus. This is opposite the Baldwin Boys School, that building, which is right inside is that building. Yeah, this is Liberty Theatre. We have a Rotarian Sita Raman who used to say that you would probably see me standing somewhere in the crowd there. I'm standing for the ticket. Well, this is one of the why there's so much of queue in this particular season, because I just got it. This is the Liberty Theatre on MG Road. My dear friends, I believe the movie that was being screened there was shot somewhere near Mysore and some of the locales in Srirangapatnam. So that's why so much of crowd on the very first day. People want to see an English movie that was shot very near Mysore and Srirangapatnam. Let's see what's there. Let's see that. You know, our place. Nammur, Bangalore, Kushiyagi Tara, Ali Hodru. Okay. Moving forward, all pictures. Now you know what this is. There's another picture of this, which the construction was being done. This is the Anil Kumble Circle. Then you find the insurance office. This is the Opera Theatre. In fact, I've seen so many movies in so many theatres. I think I remember every movie that I've seen in every theatre in Bangalore, friends. One day, that'll be another session. And I know I have some friends in the Rotary who even say which seat number they sat in which movie, which theatre. This is the Russell Market. It's unfortunately burned down. Okay, next, going forward. You know what road that is? That's the Kamaraj Road, which is a cavalry road right now. Okay, moving forward, you can now go with pictures. Yeah, the Mayor Hall. There's only pictures now. This is the Kannan building, which I said, which was there. Lakeview used to operate from this place. Okay, I think this is the end of the slide. I started with Tipu Sultan, so let me end with Tipu Sultan. At some point of time, Vijay Mallya decided that the sword of Tipu Sultan had to be brought back to Bangalore. So that's what he said to Karnataka. That's how he came here. I don't know how many people have been to Rana Pratap's museum, which is in Rajasthan. I believe it weighed some, I don't know, some 60 kilos, 70 kilos, whatever. Rana Pratap himself was a huge man. I think Ek Maat Do Tugda probably came from the swordsmanship of Rana Pratap. I believe the moment he pulled out his sword, it was sure that somebody had already cut into a piece. And then when his sword came down, obviously, another person died. The fact was that one of the great Mughal horsemen, the massive horseman, I believe once the knife of Rana Pratap came down, it split the man and the horse into two. That was the power of Rana Pratap and his sword. And I believe our great Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore, they used to say, also had prowess with swordsmanship. So that sword, I think, weighed about 22 kilos or 16 kilos or whatever. But then he was such a short man. His swordsmanship was so good that he used to kill a lot of people, a couple of swipes, and then I believe people used to die. So starting with Tipu Sultan and getting Vijay Mallya with the UB Brewery, because being born, bred, brewed in Bangalore, this is the man we connect with. And especially with the hashers, I thought Vijay Mallya has to be there because he's been instrumental in getting beer for the hash, not personally, but then, well, Kingfisher is what we all grew up with, rather. So that's the trivia on the sword. He said paid whatever money, and the people out there are the people who actually are the descendants of Tipu Sultan, who had the sword with them. And I think he bought it, and I don't know where it is right now. Maybe he's given it to the museum, he's donated, but he bought it back for the sake of Karnataka. That's it, friends. And there's so many stories to go. You can go on and on and on and on. Any questions or anything related? I'd be glad to answer. You can.
Yeah, folks, you can go ahead and raise your hand and ask a question to Molly. We'll continue as long as there are questions.
Yeah, and then I can